What is going on, ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, and welcome back to another Galaxy of Heroes video with me, your bold boy Scribe. How the devil are we all doing today? You're all looking beautiful, fantastic. Sector 3 of Conquest. I'm trying to rush through these videos to get them all to you as soon as possible, so if you need some help with Sector 3, I'm here to help hold your hand. Let's do this, baby. Alrighty then, Sector 3 looking as beautiful as ever. What are the feats that we need to get done here? We need to gain tenacity up 60 times. This one is a relatively easy one with loads of different options that you'll be able to use as you progress through the sector. Win 10 battles with SM33 or SME surviving. This one is obviously predicated on you having unlocked SME. He is a prior conquest unit. Obviously, the more investment you've got the pirates, easier this is going to be. Disarmed, win 10 battles with no attackers in your squad. This one is very, very easy with the right data disk setup. And then Mist Hunters, win 10 battles with both Forlom and Zuckuss surviving. Again, if you have investment in Forlom and Zuckuss, we can double dip on some of these feats and make it a bit easier. Great, fantastic, smashing. First of all, I'm going to go over the data disk setup that I used to do this sector. We're using a weak spot. This one is going to ramp our offense whenever we do a turn or an attack and there are debuffs on the field. Zealous Ambition makes that no attackers feat very, very easy. Essentially what this will do is any healer or support characters in your team are going to gain offense equal to a percentile of their max health, depending on what rarity of Zealous Ambition you have and how many of them you have equipped. These do stack. I'm using Leader's Resolve because this pairs very well with Zealous Ambition, and generally speaking, it is a good data disk. So this one over here is a blue Leader's Resolve. It is giving me an additional 82% max health and max protection, 49% offense and 24% speed, but it only applies to the leader. And finally, I've got Perseverance. This one's actually kind of trash. Don't recommend this. Get something else. Get more Zealous Ambition. That sort of thing will be good. That essentially means when we attack out of turn, they'll attack out of turn again. Can be useful for some feats, but overall, pretty easy to do. All right, grand. So another thing that I do want to say as a catch-all, let's not forget about the feat training disk over here, okay? Training droid data disk. So what this does is if you have it equipped, no enemies can gain tenacity up, and they are permanently cursed with tenacity down for the entire battle. Also, no enemy can essentially die until the leader has been killed. And this includes the leader. The leader cannot die, cannot drop below 1% health, right? The only way you can defeat people is through insta-kills. Why this training droid data disk is useful is because it allows you to get feats that give you either buffs or debuffs without having to worry about destroying the enemy too quickly. It does mean that you need some sort of insta-kill in order to win the battle, because everybody is immune to death until the leader has been killed, and you can only kill the leader through an insta-kill. You can also kill any unit with an insta-kill, right? So this is useful if you want to get yourself tenacity up. I recommend using this if you just want to do it in one battle, but it does, of course, cost you energy to apply it and unequip it again, all right? Good business. So let's talk about how we're going to go about doing it. This is really going to depend on how much investment you have got in your roster, in your team overall. But there are a couple of teams that we want to talk about when we're looking at both no attackers and Forlom and Zuckuss, all right? So the first one that we'll talk about is, of course, if you have investment in bounty hunters in general, but importantly, Forlom and Zuckuss. So when you're looking at this team, you want to look at two things. Because Forlom and Zuckuss are both not attacker types, okay? We've got a tank and we've got a support. You want to try and fill out the rest of the team with no attackers so that we can double dip on the feats for no attackers and for Forlom and Zuckuss, okay? When it comes to bounty hunters, your options are kind of slim there. You want to take in Bosk, Grief, and Cad Bane. So Bosk is a tank, Grief and Cad Bane are support type units. If you can get this to survive with that Leader's Resolve and Zealous Ambition, you're going to be in a good spot. Not only that, our good boy Mr. Grief Karga over here with his Sweeten the Deal ability is also going to provide us a source of AoE tenacity up, which is another feat that we need to get for this sector. So if you can get this team to work, it's great. I'll show you a quick battle here using these guys and the bonus sector just to show that you can get it done. So here we go. Like, this Night Sister team is actually pretty decent to get some of these feats against, and you'll be able to farm yourself some decent datacron materials. Not the ideal node, of course, but a decent one nonetheless. So you can more or less go in and do whatever you want. Whenever it comes to dealing damage with 3 of your characters, you're going to do insane damage thanks to the Zealous Ambition and Leader's Resolve setup that we've got going on over here. I'm still learning how to use Forlom and Zuckuss, truth be told, but Forlom himself is an absolute monster, even without Zealous Ambition. Grief over there, giving all that retribution, but also passing us Tenacity up is rather nice. And then whenever we get a turn with Forlom or Zuckuss, oh, rather just Zuckuss, he more or less decimates anything in his way rather. So pretty decent team. I was able to burn this down to like 30% stamina on these guys, which was pretty good. But you really need high levels of investment for that to work, and you need the right data disk setup. So this is just kind of like, if you happen to have it invested, you can double dip or even triple dip on some feats. You can work on Tenacity up, you can get your Forlom and Zuckuss wins, and you can get your no attackers. All right, so decent way of getting it done. Now, we can also use Adrad. Adrad is another fantastic unit to be using with these guys if you've got Zealous Ambition, particularly with Leader's Resolve. He has got a nice AoE over here that will literally clear the board on anything it hits, more or less anything. If you've got enough Zealous Ambition and enough Leader's Resolve stacked up on your data disks, you want to make sure you don't take Jin. Jin is an attacker, so I'm using Cassian and K2SO here, so no attackers as well as Forlom and Zuckuss coming in here. You can, of course, use the old faithful of JML lead. Use Watanabe to throw the tank tech on JML. I'm using Grandmaster Yoda here. Support character, JML's a tank. JML just calls people to assist all the time. Yoda can also pass an AoE Tenacity up with Battle Meditation, so that's also kind of nice. It's just another way of double dipping. I know not everybody's going to have JML, of course, but there are some options available to you. Another solid team to be using for no attackers is going to be Night Sisters in general. They're almost all support, and Morgan Elsbeth, if you happen to have her, that first special will pass all Night Sister allies Tenacity up, so you're able to work on that feat as well. Now, if I were to just AoE here, I imagine Great Mothers would probably just clear the board, but I wanted to wait until I got round into Morgan Elsbeth's turn, just so that I could use that first special and pass some Tenacity up just to show it to you. So over here, boom, first special, Tenacity up to the whole team. So that's going to give you 5 Tenacity ups. Now, there are loads of options for Tenacity up, and we'll talk about more of them when we get to Smee in a second. I just want to show you that you don't have to worry about trying to get all of your Tenacity ups in one battle. You're going to need to do plenty of battles as you work through this sector, 22 battles in total, and you can gradually get those Tenacity ups over time. So all in all, Night Sisters are really, really strong for no attackers, if you happen to have Zealous Ambition as a data disk, because they just benefit really massively. And you don't need Great Mothers. You can do Mother Tals in lead. You can still throw it. So long as you don't take an attacker, you should be okay. So when we're looking at getting Smee victories, we have to throw out the whole no attacker rule, okay? Because Smee himself is an attacker just straight off the bat. So, you know, if Smee is in the team, you're already not getting that no attacker. So this is going to depend on how much investment you've got in Pirates. Obviously, if you've got Pirate King Hondo, he's your best bet. Also works on the global feat to get yourself profit. You'll get it done in like a battle if you've got Pirate King Hondo. One side note, taking Kix. Kix on a basic over here, he will pass Tenacity up to all pirates. Sorry, my throat got stuck there. To all pirates whenever he does a basic. So it's a really easy way of just bursting through all of that Tenacity up. Just take in Smee, and of course, Kix is also a support type character, so he will decimate. Same for Silvo, actually. Now, if you don't have Pirate King Hondo, maybe you happen to have Mars. And if you've got Mars, once again, make sure you're taking Kix. Use Athano and Quiggold and Smee. You're still getting your Tenacity up. Mars is also a support type character, so she'll do loads of damage. And if you do not have Mars, you'll have to walk in with your Athano lead. Throw in OG Hondo. OG Hondo is a support type, and a lot of people will have him invested just because of the raid, so he will do massive damage. Just make sure you don't capture a unit at the start and then defeat them, because that's going to make your Hondo escape unless he's got his 10 stacks of capture. And I'm using Smee with Kix and Quiggold. Always taking Kix if you can, because that basic passing that Tenacity up and the fact that he's support all works rather well. So I took this team up against that Night Sister node as well, just to show you in practice. Another great thing, they all start with Tenacity up into this team, so that's also kind of nice. Another source of easy Tenacity up over here. I can't necessarily say you'll be able to just like blitz this, because it really depends on how much investment you have in your pirates. But I capture Mother Tals in here because I don't want to spreading all that plague. It's really irritating. But yeah, this team does pretty well. Like I said, you can use it against a bonus node at the end of the sector, should you want. But basics over here from Kix, boom, everybody gets Tenacity up. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that damage, 300k on a basic is insane. Because he double taps basically, doesn't he? 130k a tap. The Mother Talzin node is just very useful to demonstrate things against And yep, you should be able to get a couple of battles out of this one. Now, if you have 0 investment in your pirates, you're going to have to rely on the old faithfuls, right? So maybe going in with your Adrad, or maybe going in with the Inquisitorius if you happen to have Reaver and GI. Maybe you need to go in with the JML setup, or anything that's going to help you get out the way. Use those teams, your strongest teams that have got attackers or are dependent on attackers, if you've got low levels of investment in SME. They'll need to be teams that are fast. So you can use things like a CLS squad. All right? Cool. I'm going to move on to the mid-sector boss then. We've got 2 feats here. You can do this in one battle, should you choose. Boss Nass and Omega Fugitive. You just need both of them to survive. Obviously, if you're doing this feat together, you need to have some sort of really strong setup at the start. Or you could try and double dip by getting wins with with Forlom and Zuckus if you want to try and combine them. There are a number of ways you can get this done. So first and foremost, I decided to show you could use an Adrad comp over here. I just wanted to show the benefit of Adrad against Empire. Whenever they gain turn meter, boom, they instantly get dazed, and Adrad can just drop a bomb and more or less destroy anybody on the field. I've thrown in Boss Nass at the back there just to show that you can use him. Of course, you will need to get through Tarkin as quickly as possible, or at least ability block him, because if you've got a low gear on your Boss Nass, then he may well be susceptible to an AoE. You're not really going to be able to outpace that Mara Jade or that Vader, so maybe you can throw in Han Solo and stun her at the start if you're really struggling. But that will give you an attacker on the team. So this team here is using no attackers, so you get no attackers and Boss Nass. Alternatively, you can use a team like this. I'm using a Sia Junda team here, no attackers once again, and Visas is awesome in this comp. When she's counter-attacking, especially if she's counter-attacking Sith, which is either going to be Palpatine or Vader, she just does crazy damage. Look at that, she is a healer type, so she's benefiting from that Zealous Ambition, and I'm throwing in Omega here. Now you can try and throw these comps in together where you've just got Boss Nass and Omega on one team with some sort of strong support type to try and knock it out in one go, and I do recommend you try and do that if your roster has the depth to carry it. However, I wouldn't worry too much, because the feats that you get from this particular node are rather small. Visas over here, just love her with Zealous Ambition. Yeah, the feats here are not massive. You don't get boatloads and boatloads of key cards for doing these, so you can afford to skip on some of these. If you want to, maybe skip the Omega one if you have no Bad Batch, or maybe skip the Gungans one if you have no Gungans. It's okay to pass up on a couple of feats. Moving on to the end boss then. This one you have to do 2 battles if you want to get it done. You need to do one with Darth Vader surviving and one without using Empire on your squad. Now, obviously, if you've got Lord Vader, just throw Darth Vader under Lord Vader and you'll have a whale of a time. But failing that, I find that Sith Triumvirate does pretty well against this. Your only real concern, of course, is Anakin going ham. But if you've got Traya, I'm throwing in Malak over here, I'm throwing in Nihilus. We've got quite a few support types here. Vader is an attacker, so don't worry about throwing in additional attackers should you need it. I just find that this comp worked quite well for me. I was hoping to get rid of Anakin here, but we didn't quite have the damage. Now, if you do have weak spot on your data disk, I should have just saved that yeet until the end of Merciless Massacre, and we probably would have built up enough offense, thanks to all the dots and the debuffs and all that sort of good business. That probably would have been the smarter thing to do, but I wasn't really thinking, and I'm not always the brightest crayon in the bowling ball, if that makes any sort of sense. Don't bother trying to isolate the Handmaiden. It would be a waste of your isolate. You want to try and save it and isolate on Queen Amidala in an ideal world, and try and get rid of Anakin as soon as possible. Boom. Nihilus, being a support type, really does help with those Zealous Ambitions. We're going to isolate Queen Amidala. That way she can't actually heal her allies and stuff like that. Very useful. She can't call mass assists and things like that. And Vader, you'll see now, has ramped up loads of damage thanks to that weak spot data disk doing really solid work. So just yeet out people left and right at this point. And then we can get rid of Master Qui-Gon Jinn in a moment here, and we should be able to just take out Queen Amidala quite easily. Yeah, Traya over there doing really solid damage. Vader with the Culling Blade and a basic to finish it off. Nice and easy. Darth Vader win there. Now, if you're doing the end boss with no Empire, there are any number of teams that you can use. Obviously, just use your most powerful. I decided to use a team that has no attackers, just to show that you can still keep on double dipping. I'm using Shakti clones with 5's Echo, Rex, and Old Man Rex. There's a lot of damage in this team, as you can see. Shakti is a support type character, C-Rex is a support type character, Echo's a support type character, and of course OG Rex is a support type character. So whenever we're dealing damage here, more or less, we are one-tapping units. Even on a basic over there, Shakti hitting for 240k. That's that combination. Oh, and we've got tenacity up from Rex as well. So we're getting no attackers, we're getting tenacity up, we're getting the end sector boss for not using any Empire. It's really easy to get these feats done. Really, really easy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to about do it for this sector. I hope it was useful to you. If you've got any tips and tricks for your fellow holotable heroes, leave it in the comments section down below. Make sure you hit that like button and please subscribe. Pretty please. I try my very best to get good content out to you. I want to know that people actually like it. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.